Hi, and welcome to a new entry in SEMRush affiliate marketing webinars. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about keywords, how they can help you drive affiliate sales, and of course, the secret of the keyword golden ratio. Our today's webinar will be presented by Doug Cunnington, founder of Niche Site Projects. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Ilya. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a real honor to be presenting with SEMRush.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to what we have to hear today. And once again, thank you, everybody, for coming. Just wanted to, before we start, quickly say, be sure to stick around until the very end of the event. First of all, because we will answer all your questions. And by the way, if you have any questions to Doug, post them straight away in chat. We will be recording them and asking them at the very end of the event. And second, well, we have a little announcement concerning our series of webinars at the very end of the webinar. So be sure to stick around. But before that, it's time to jump right in. And Doug, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks. And I'll go through a little bit more of an introduction, but like Ilya said, I'm Doug Cunnington, founder of Niche Site Project. I blog over there, and I have a YouTube channel as well. And if you just Google me, you should be able to find more information if you actually wanted to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, or try to. So, and boom, it should be full screen. And Ilya, you could just yell at me and just say, yeah, this is working.
It's loading right now. Should be good soon.
All right.
Oh,
excellent.
Yeah, it's live.
Perfect. So today we're going to be talking about improving conversions through very specific keyword research using the keyword golden ratio. And of course, this is oriented towards affiliate marketing. I spend a lot of time on Amazon affiliate sites, but generally you'll be able to apply these ideas elsewhere to any other affiliate marketing and really other content marketing as well. So we already did the sound check, but I always like to double check. Who am I and why should you listen to me? So I'm Doug Cunnington, and I write a lot about affiliate marketing, internet marketing, and some productivity. But before that, I was a project manager for a software company, just a normal corporate job. And I sort of accidentally found my way into affiliate marketing. And I feel like my background with project management and just about a decade of corporate experience gave me an interesting sort of, I guess, approach to affiliate marketing. And when I started, I found like the Smart Passive Income podcast and didn't know anything. In fact, I thought it all sounded a little bit scammy. So, but if you fast forward a little bit, I started my first niche site within maybe like a month or so, and made tons of mistakes, but it was a great experience. I got really obsessed. You can see I like dogs there. My dog Georgie is sitting at my feet, and that's my my dad and I down at Old Faithful in the Yellowstone National Park, and our old dog there, Brody. So anyway, I have been featured or quoted on a lot of different blogs online, and you could hopefully have some of that social proof, and you can see that I know what I'm talking about, at least in a few areas. So that's why you should maybe listen to me. Now, one thing I do like to point out as part of the introduction is my niche site timeline. And I think it's really important to point out that a lot of times when you see very impressive stories out there, a lot of times you're just seeing the highlight reel. And most of the time, you don't hear about the roller coaster ride to get to wherever this person was. Typically, it's not an overnight success. Usually, there's a lot of learning along the way. A lot of mistakes were made. And you can see for me, like I said, a few years ago in 2013, I first discovered Amazon and niche sites and stuff like that, and did really well quickly, and then failed a couple times and failed harder. And I was actually doing some gray hat link building activities, which eventually I realized, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. I keep getting into trouble with Google. And I actually had my full-time job for the first few years. And in 2015, I got laid off. So it was sort of a low point at that time, and eventually had some great successes, doing really well with some niche sites. And again, just remember, if maybe you're at a low point, or maybe you're just getting started, like, remember, you're just oftentimes hearing the highlight reel. And I put this slide up to remind myself that, you have ups and downs, and further to remind people that sometimes, you're only hearing the highlight reel, and you just need to push through and keep pushing the ball forward. So as Ilya said, you could ask questions along the way. He's checking out the chat there, and then we'll come to them at the end, but feel free to ask along the way. So again, this is all about improving conversions, and we'll just jump right into it and say that this will apply to really any type of site in any kind of content, but we'll really be focusing on Amazon affiliate sites. That's where I have some specific data and results that I can share. And in fact, I'll show you some specific results that I've been able to just like prove that this works. Overall, we're going to talk about getting the right traffic. We'll talk about the keyword golden ratio specifically, and give a couple quick examples. So just a baseline. So I do like to show results versus anything else or any sort of hypotheticals. So this is a baseline for no keyword golden ratio. We'll abbreviate KGR often here. So not using the KGR, you'll see obviously these Amazon earnings are very good. However, the conversion rate is about 5.7%. Now this is, again, a high amount of money. However, the conversion rate is a little bit lower. Using the KGR, you can see the conversion rate is up in the double digits as reported by Amazon, so 12.34% versus the 5.6% or so not using the keyword golden ratio. So the traffic was much different on these sites, and the whole punchline here, which I could say early and remind you a few times, is we're going to be getting the right kind of traffic to the site, very specific kind of traffic, people that want to buy something. So that said, how do you get that right kind of traffic? So we'll be talking about 4 kind of keywords here. Generally, we're only mainly concerned about 2 types. So buy now is really just like a pre-purchase. So it's like someone wants to buy something right away. I think I was buying like some gifts. It's around the holiday time right now when we're recording this. So I was buying some gifts, and I think I was looking for like a coupon code for like Shutterfly or something like that. I was going to buy some photo books. So literally just before I'm going to buy something, product type keywords. It's a little bit earlier in the purchasing process. So someone is trying to figure out what type of product to buy, and they're researching like reviews. So these are some of the good ones that we want to go after. So product is it's earlier in the buying cycle. Another type is informational. So these are how-to articles, the best way to do something. Most of the keywords online that people are searching for are informational. These are pretty good too, although not as awesome as the product. The 4th kind is a general information or tire kicker type keyword, where someone's just learning about it. So maybe they are like looking up, I see a bird outside, so I'll use that as an example. They're just learning about a specific kind of bird, and they type in like a magpie, and then they get like a Wikipedia entry and just like a broad level of what it is from there. So again, just really trying to understand a specific term or concept, or maybe even a definition. The good ones are product and informational though. So the target keyword volumes come into play too for the specific area that we're talking about. So these are my own definitions here, and high is around 2,500 to 9,000 or higher. Medium is 720 to 2,500. Low 250 to 720, and ultra low, and these ultra long tails are less than 250. And you can see that big arrow indicating that we are focusing on the ultra long tail zone. So yes, those other keyword search volumes can be extremely profitable. However, a lot of times they're very competitive. There's a lot more people competing for just the same keywords because they're so profitable. However, when you're talking about improving conversions and understanding the right kind of traffic getting to your site, then these ultra low and long tails are quite valuable. So this is where the keyword golden ratio comes into play. So we'll go over a specific example, but here's the pure formula and definition. The all in title is a specific Google advanced search command that you could use in the just the search bar there. And you take the all in title number of results and you divide it by the local monthly search volume, which generally we'll just assume that's going to be the US. In most cases, that's going to be the largest as far as affiliate marketing, especially for an Amazon oriented type search. It's important to have the local monthly searches, or LMS, to be under 250. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but from a pure math standpoint, 250, when you apply the formula here, you end up with a fewer number of results, hence less competition, and it's under 250, ultra long tail, which is everything we're looking for. So you want to have the ratio of all in title divided by the LMS to be less than 0.25. All right, so that's the golden area of this ratio. The key here is that it's ultra specific. And I think I was just reading an article earlier today how voice search is so important these days, and it's growing. We just ordered a couple devices where we're going to be doing a lot more voice searching around here in our own household, and it's very specific. A lot of times these are long phrases, and it plays really well, in my opinion, with the keyword golden ratio. So let's go over a real life example, and you can see exactly how to use the all in title command. So example number 1, we're looking at which electric shaver is best for sensitive skin. So when you type it in, it's just all in title : with the search phrase in there. We won't call it a keyword since it's a pretty long phrase there. You'll notice there's no spaces between all in title, the colon, or the search phrase. And I don't use quotation marks. You don't want to use quotation marks in the command because that makes it more specific. You'd have to have the exact order and the exact words, but we want it to be a little bit more liberal in the search. So in this case, you see 4 results are provided, and the search volume, which I checked on a different tool, is 10 searches. So that's actually 0.4. All right, so 0.4 is over 0.25. So that doesn't meet our criteria. All right, so I just wanted to show sometimes you don't find one. Now, would I go for this term? Potentially. I mean, we're talking about 4 of the results here. So it doesn't fit the criteria, but it's a very few number of results. So it may be worthwhile to go for. Next, best electric shaver for a bald head. That one, hits close to home for me. But in this case, we check out the all in title, and we see we have 26 results, and there's 210 searches. So that gives us a 0.12 as the ratio, which of course is less than 0.25. And that indicates something where it's relatively low competition. You obviously have a low number of searches, so it fits all the check boxes that we need. So you end up with a great keyword to go after, and this one works wonderfully. So it's a manual process, and you kind of have to figure out what to search for. It took me a few minutes to find those, but I've done a lot of these. But a lot of people do get stuck along the way. So what do you do when you get stuck? Now, there's a lot of places you can get good ideas from, and we'll go through a few of these here. So a couple of what I'm calling pro tips here is listen to Google. Like, Google is giving you some good information along the way. So related searches are perfect to look for these. So we see here, this is a related searches to the best electric shaver for a bald head. And we have a handful here. Google is literally telling us people are searching for these. Now, I'm using a tool here called Keywords Everywhere that it's an extension for Chrome, and it just outputs the search volume for different terms and different views of stuff online. So it works in the Google search results page. It works in a few other places as well. But it's great because you can quickly see like, oh, these are under 250 or not. And you'll notice some zero search volumes, and we may come to that further in the discussion here. So listen to Google. Related searches are a great source. Another great one is Autosuggest. So Autosuggest is exactly what you see here. You can start typing out a term. And I find this format, by the way, is one of the best to use. So best product type for a specific type of user or a specific use. So if you keep that in mind and you just type it out and you use the Autosuggest, you get some great ideas. By the way, you could, as an aside, you could do this in YouTube as well and get some great ideas that may be a little bit different than what you may see just on the regular Google side. Or if you're a YouTuber, you can get some good ideas like that too. So listen to Google in all cases. Further, SEMRush has the topic research tool. So snowboarding, for example, right? You could just type in whatever term you want. You can make it broad, a little more specific, and then you'll end up with a nice like card format here, and you can see more detailed stuff on snowboards, for example. So we see bindings here, and again, it's outlined in a card format, so you can dive deeper and you can show more for each one of these. So it's a great place to get more ideas, and you can sort by volume, and it also gives you a little bit more detail in each one of these cards. Also, the keyword magic tool from SEMrush is great as well. So you can see here, you start with a seed keyword, and then it can go deep into, a broad match or like a phrase match and all that sort of detail. So very effective there. And another cool thing is questions are fantastic. So this, you could sort by question and filter out everything else that's not a question, which, as we mentioned before, with voice search being important, a lot of times these voice searches are questions. Who won the best picture in 2017, and so on. So I can go on and on there, but it's great to have questions to reference, and the keyword magic tool is a great way to get that. Another similar sort of idea with the questions is answer the public. So you'll see that you can't read anything on this very beautiful mind map, but answer the public, you literally can, type in a term and you'll end up with potentially, several dozen or even a few hundred different questions or things that you could cover in that topic. And the Keywords Everywhere tool actually can provide you the search volumes for those as well. You can see here, you can download the CSV, and obviously it'll be a little bit more usable than this mind map format, but with a CSV, you can get these search volumes. Obviously, a lot of these are going to be questions, and you could filter them as such. And other times, you can see they have comparisons here. So Answer the Public is a fantastic resource to just get more ideas about what people are asking. And you can see like how deep they go in different areas versus, if you're just doing like keyword research where you're relying on your mind to come up with, the hidden gem there, it can be pretty difficult. So it's great to use tools like these to, one, just find great keyword phrases that you can use, but also just to take your mind in a different direction. I know a lot of times I get stuck in a certain pocket of where I'm thinking, and sometimes you just need some new ideas. So all these three tools are great to take a look at, spawn new ideas, and help you find more terms to look up and do the math on. So overall here, the goal is to find keyword golden ratio compliant keywords with a buyer's intent. So as we mentioned before, when you're looking at the different types of keywords, you want to make sure the keywords that you're targeting will bring the right kind of traffic to your site, someone who's actually interested in making a purchase sometime in the near future. It depends on the affiliate program that you're working with, but ideally, in the Amazon case, they want to buy something in the next 24 hours or so. If it's a different affiliate program, maybe you have a longer affiliate cookie, you may be able to have like a 30-day cookie. And as long as they're interested in buying something in that amount of time, that could be all right. So some informational posts could be perfect for those if someone's learning more before they do deeper research on finding whatever product they're looking for. So if you have the right traffic using these long tail keyword golden ratio terms with buyer's intent, your conversion rate should go up and you should have just the right kind of traffic, people that are looking for something very specific. That's perfect. All right, and we're to the Q&A. So let me pop back over. And we're here.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting and very enlightening. And I think we should mention that down below in the description, we have the keyword golden ratio spreadsheet, which you can use to work with the long tail keywords and figure out if they're keyword golden ratio compliant. So that's something you can use, of course, besides the links to Doug's website, to myself, and to our affiliate program. But finally, onto the questions. We have actually quite a lot of them. So first of all, is a general question, I guess, what kind of tool do we use for keyword research, and which of those are free? So you listed a couple of them. So SEMRush, you can use it for free, but it's very limited. So you can start and give it a shot, and then a pro subscription is a reasonable $99 per month. But then we also mentioned other tools. What other tools would you personally recommend besides, once again, Answers the Public, for like keyword research?
Sure. So I think obviously having the keyword search volume is important. You need to have that. So the free tool that I recommend is Keywords Everywhere. And generally, like I said, it's a Chrome extension, and you can get enough information. In fact, because it's so convenient, as I am doing keyword research, that's sort of my most used tool, even though it's free. It works fine, and you get search volume. So from a free standpoint, that's what I usually recommend. And there's actually a keyword golden ratio masterclass on YouTube, where there's like 10 videos where I go deep into using, keywords everywhere, for example. And in fact, I use SEMRush as like one of my primary tools. So there's a long video on SEMRush for the keyword golden ratio. Now, there's tons of keyword tools out there, and I haven't used them all. And in fact, I usually it's a commodity to me. I don't really care what tool you use, and different tools provide different search volumes. And in my opinion, it really doesn't matter that much. Just pick a tool and use it, and don't switch around too much. Don't try and find like the perfect number or the exact number, because you really just need to know, like, relatively speaking, from one keyword to another keyword. That's really the important part. So pick a tool that you like, you enjoy the interface, whatever it may be. Maybe you're just getting started and you don't have a budget, and you can use Keywords Everywhere until you have more money to upgrade to like SEMrush Pro or whatever.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Sometimes it makes sense to start with the free tools and get the skills you need, and then you can always switch over to SEMrush or some other tool. here's a very interesting question, which I don't believe that was covered in the presentation, but it's very relevant. What if search volume is 0? So what we do with like this ultra long tail keywords, if you will?
Okay. So that's a really good question. And we noticed it when I showed the slide on like recommended or related searches from Google. So there's 3 scenarios where I'll write something for 0 search volume. Now, what you don't want to do, we'll talk about that real quick. What you don't want to do is base your whole website and all your content on 0 search volume, because that's a recipe for really not getting much traffic at all. Like no one's searching for it, right? Very few people. But one thing that we do know is the search volume as reported by any tool, even Google, those are estimates, right? So it's an estimate of the search volume. And if it rounds down to 0, say it's 4 searches per month, which is a small amount, but let's say it's 4 searches per month, that'll round down to 0. And further, all the different tools, whether it's SEMRush or Keywords Everywhere or Autosuggest or keyword fill in the tool, they all use a different algorithm. So you'll end up with different numbers anyway. So we're talking about 0 search volume. There are 3 scenarios where I'll publish content on it. So number 1 is if it's an auto suggest from Google. So Google is literally telling you, people are searching for this and we're suggesting this to you. So that's number 1. If it's an auto suggest, I'll go for it. If it is a related search, same exact situation, Google's recommending it, so let's go for it. The third scenario is if it's a good piece of content that you know will be helpful to an audience member. So there's a lot of content on Niche Site Project, for example, where I created an FAQ section for affiliate marketing. And I literally have, dozens of people sending me questions, viewers on YouTube asking questions. Like I know people are asking these specific questions. However, it's a very small pocket of people that are asking them. So the search volume for basically, tens of thousands of words of content that I've written, no one's searching for it at all, based on the numbers. However, I actually rank for those terms, and I know some very small number of people search for them. And the thing that when you get started, you may not realize this, but if someone searches for something like similar, and it's some other long tail, so let me just make one up. Actually, let's just use the question that we have here. So what if the search volume is 0? It's a pretty long phrase, but if anyone searches anything similar to that, you can also rank for those terms. So I've had some very successful pieces of content on various sites where the search volume was 0. And I ended up getting, say 30 to 50 visitors per day on that piece of content because of all the long tail searches that are related to it, that they also have 0 search volume. So it's essentially like off the radar, like people don't know it. However, because I knew that it was an auto suggest and 0 search volume, I was like, I'll take a chance and go ahead and publish it. So 3 scenarios: auto suggest, related searches, if it's just going to be a useful piece of content that someone would find useful within your audience.
Thank you very much. And I think one very important point that you pointed out in this answer and in the previous one is that all the tools that you have available are providing an estimate. So basically speaking, you need to figure out, sometimes even for yourself, and compare the dynamics for all the measures that you get. They are all estimates, even the things that the Google provides. This is a very important point, and thank you very much for pointing that out. On to other questions we have is it better to use long tail? Is it better to use long tail keywords to make big content mixed with main keyword? In terms of SEO, do we just backlink it backlink it with the anchor text of the long tail. So maybe a little bit of a complicated question here, but in general, let me see if I can find the original post. I'm sorry.
Okay. And I think I'll just start talking just because
Go
no
ahead.
one wants dead air. So it's a two-part question, and I think like the intent of that first question is around like, can we sprinkle in these key, and this is an important part, can we sprinkle in these long tail keywords in bigger pieces of content where we're targeting something bigger? The answer is yes, you can do that. However, if you're using the keyword golden ratio, you find the term, and let's, one example I use all the time, because it's like not a very profitable niche. So it's ballpoint pens, right? So let's say the term is best ballpoint pens for journaling, and that was a term, right? So you would want to title your piece of content best ballpoint pen for journaling, and then cover that. I usually recommend around like 1,000 to 1,500 words to start out, and then see how it does, and then you could come back and improve it later if you need to, and just see how it goes. Now, the implication of the question, I believe, is can we use all these long tail keywords to boost up another more competitive term like ballpoint pen? And you could, but you may be better off going after that long tail and then maybe interlinking within your site to a piece of content that is more competitive, and you can interlink and have like a relevant sort of cluster of content around that topic. The other second part of the question is, how do you do the link building? So that's a little bit deeper, but to just straight up answer the question, yes, you can get some backlinks for these pieces of content. I would generally recommend a pretty low percentage of any kind of exact match anchor text, especially when you're dealing with a long phrase. So maybe 1% to 2%, and then everything else is like a partial match or a generic type anchor text. That's a deeper topic, but in general, less is more, and don't go crazy. Don't don't get hit by any sort of over optimization.
Thank you very much. And I do believe that was the initial request behind this question. By the way, the original poster, by all means, do let us know if we have answered your question or if you want us to elaborate. And anybody else can still join us and ask questions. We still have plenty of time to answer them. Now, on to the other questions that we have. What is the best way to find relevant keywords for the content, like for Amazon affiliate?
Cool. So I'd like to, number one, point out a great video that I did. I'll call it great, give myself a compliment. But I do use SEMRush to find keywords from like competitive websites, like other competition. So one of the best ways to get some great ideas is to just, go to a website, go to the Wirecutter, and download the keywords that they're ranking for in the area that you're looking for. In the video that is in the masterclass for the keyword golden ratio, I show you some of the filters I use to make sure you're not dealing with 1.5 million keywords. You're dealing with like a few hundred, so you could actually make use of them. And SEMrush is a great tool to use for that. If you're an Ahrefs fan, Ahrefs has a similar type information from an organic keyword ranking standpoint. But SEMrush is the tool that I use most often for it. And, a couple of the things to think about are, when you're filtering, you want to filter for buyers keywords. So best product type is very good. Versus keywords, that's very good too. Versus indicates like someone's done enough research. They're comparing two different products or more, 2 or 3 products. Further, a lot of times these are just like longer phrases. And if you're going to look for terms, I would say, 4 or more words, and that'll get rid of some of the short tail keywords that you're not going to be dealing with anyway. And the other thing is the keyword difficulty. Is that what it is, Ilya? Keyword difficulty.
One of the tools we have is indeed keyword difficulty, but
Okay.
I think maybe what you're referring to is actually gap analysis. Depends on what you're specifically looking for.
Sure.
But
Well,
yeah,
in that case, I was thinking of the keyword difficulty because you could just say look for stuff that's under 72, or I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number, but you could move the KD filter and find out, what works for you, so that again, that you have a manageable number of keywords to look for. And then that's the best way to like just get tons of ideas. And then, I mentioned a couple others, like go to Answer the Public. It's a great tool to use, and it integrates with Keywords Everywhere, so you can get the search volumes, download a CSV, and work with a spreadsheet versus, if you went to like Quora or something like that, it's just, a Q&A kind of site.
Thank you very much. And actually, yes, I think you are quite correct in referring to keyword difficulty, but we do also have a tool, I think, which can be relevant to what you discussed, is the keyword gap, and generally the gap analysis tool, where you can compare two domains, whether that would be two of your competitors or indeed yourself and your competitor, and see the common keywords, the keywords that one site ranks for, which another one doesn't. And so you can find some niches where your competitors are not working as well, or indeed are working very well, and target where they are not looking. So you really target the demand which isn't being satisfied by your competition, and you can find out using the keyword gap and general gap analysis report of SEMRush. And indeed, what you said about all the other points stands correct. Is correct. Sorry. Yes. I'm looking for other questions we have incoming. So here's the question: why under 250 specifically? So this would be for the keyword golden ratio.
Okay. So there's a couple reasons for it. Number one, we are looking for lower like competition just in general. And when you start looking at the higher search volume keywords, you'll see there's more competition. Why is that? There's more money in it, right? So the higher search volume terms are usually more profitable, more people go after them, and just in general, it's going to be more competition because of that, money aspect of it. 250, when you apply the formula, right? So we're looking under 0.25. So when you use 250 in there, you end up with about 63. And that is the key. Like, we're looking for under 63 or so, and we want the search volume to be low. Now, the other thing with a lower search volume is, I believe, a term can rank faster. So 250 is a bit arbitrary. However, when you're looking under, I'm pretty sure you can rank a term faster than, let's say, for example, you find a keyword that has 5,000 searches per month, and the all-in title is, let's say it's 50. So you end up with a very small keyword golden ratio, although it wouldn't really rank as fast, in my opinion. Now, I haven't done a test on this. Generally, if you have like a newer site, if you're going after a 5,000 searches per month term, or a term that has 5,000 searches per month, it's going to take longer to rank. I don't know if there's some algorithmic thing where it's like a longer sandbox. I'm throwing out a lot of jargon and stuff, but if there's a longer sandbox from the Google standpoint for higher search volumes. But I've seen brand new sites. In fact, I started a new site in mid-October, and there's one KGR term that's ranking like number 2, like under the sort of featured box. It's doing really well. And it's very low search volume, but it's moved up quite high. Any of the other content on the site where it's targeting a higher search volume, say in the 1,500 range, it's buried very far. Like it's just taking a lot longer to rank. Again, there's a lot more competition. There's many factors involved, but 250 is important. And if you try to exceed the 250 rule, you'll probably find that it's not going to work at all. If you apply 250, a lot of times you're able to rank within a few hours. Like you'll show up in the top 30 as soon as your site is indexed, like, or as soon as the page is indexed. It's super fast. I didn't emphasize that enough, but for a brand new site, you can get traction, you can get traffic to your site. And from a higher level standpoint, it's really important, especially if you're just getting started with affiliate marketing, to get some small wins. I mean, when I got started, I remember, talking to my wife, and she's like, well, this sounds crazy. I really, I don't think this is going to work. It sounds like a scam. But it's really important to like make those first few pennies or whatever, so that you prove the concept. Your family and friends believe you that you can actually make some money online, which again, it all seems like it's not real until you get started. And so the small wins are very important early. I know some other folks that are, my peers, that have a different approach to getting started. And they're like, just publish content for, I don't know, 6 to 12 or 18 months. And, you should start getting some traffic. But the unfortunate part is you have to invest, hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars, and you may be 14 months in and realize, oh, that was actually a bad area that wasn't going to work out. It's much better to figure that out within like a few weeks versus, 8 months or something like that. So very long answer to why 250. You'll be able to rank faster. That's the short answer.
Thank you. And I guess this golden ratio is one of the results of that roller coaster experimentation that you described earlier. Is that fair to say?
Yep, exactly. Because my initial sites were based on going after, keywords that were 5 to 10,000 searches per month. And I thought, well, that's way more competitive. Like, how can we flip this over and go for like the long tail? And have you read the book by, I think it's Chris Anderson, The Long Tail?
I don't believe I have.
So check it out, Ilya. It's a pretty good book. And I mean, the thing is, the long tail is infinite. It goes on forever. It's like infinite shelf space now. There's no limit to it. And it's basically the same size as the short tail, which is also infinite in the other direction, infinite in quotes there. But the point is, there's a lot of these short or long tail keywords that are very low search volume, and they can add up in aggregate. So yeah, I flipped it over, and I was like, this is going to take a lot of work. And a lot of the way I tested this was around publishing a lot of content. You kind of have to do this at a volume. So I published a lot of content, and one of my skills that I kind of glossed over was around building teams and setting up processes, building organizations. So that's what I did in the consulting and project management days. So I was going to have to hire a team of writers and test it and figure out if that was going to work. So I went through a few iterations of that. It did work, and then I started sharing it around. So,
thank you very much. And I always think that it's very important to point out and demonstrate how many things go unnoticed under the hood of very successful projects that just seem to happen instantly, but are actually years and years of hard work of a lot of people. So once again, thank you very much. It's a very important lesson, I would say. So once again, back to the figures of the keyword golden ratio, we have another question relates to that. So if we find a keyword and it comes under the keyword golden ratio 0.25, should we use it and go for it, or should we see some other conditions before we make it final?
Very good question. I should remember to talk about that as well. You should always just Google the term and see what comes up. So let me give you a couple of examples of what might be a bad sign. So you want to find the term, and then you Google it. Let's say all e-commerce sites come up. So maybe there's some smaller retail brands that pop up. Maybe there's like Walmart and Target and Amazon, or some other brands if it's an international type search. In that case, it's a bad sign, and you want to see other affiliate sites in there. If Google is showing you all e-commerce sites, that's a sign that the searchers in Google, or the searchers are looking for an e-commerce result, and Google has figured that out, and they're telling you that. So you could follow the signs and see that. Another example would be YouTube videos. So if someone is asking, how do you change a tire for a car? I haven't checked this, but you may find that people don't want to have a narrative and a bunch of words to read. They want to see a YouTube video. So if you Google it and you see there's like 8 YouTube videos and like 2 results, you probably need to skip that one unless you're going to make a YouTube video. So you could take the signs that Google gives you in the results and see if they're looking for an affiliate site, or, again, you could apply this elsewhere. So if you are an e-commerce site and you see e-commerce results, that's good. If you're a YouTuber, you're looking for those kind of results, that's great. So take the signs of what Google tells you in the results, and then you can move forward.
Thank you very much. That's indeed a very important addition. We have one more question coming up. And this is quite great for you because you get, once again, a chance to talk about your own work. So do you have some content about anchor text or how to write better posts?
Okay. So I have a little bit of content on anchor text. If you go to nichesiteproject.com and find one of the search bars, you should be able to find a little more information. I would suggest, though, you take a look at that. And I also have a lot of references so you can do your own investigation and research. In general, like I mentioned before, you want to be conservative with the exact match anchor text. So just don't go overboard in that area. And generally, I like to have partial matches for that anchor text, whether it's like within your site or off your site or whatever. So that's kind of the angle that I want to emphasize, is just less is more. Don't go overboard. You can really make it look artificial, and that's not the sort of thing you want to do. So what was the second part of that one? I forgot.
It was, do you have, I guess, some content about writing better posts?
Cool. So I have a couple posts on Niche Site Project that you could check out. There's also YouTube videos on my channel. So if you just search for some content information, and I can explain 2 of them that are fairly straightforward. So one is the FAQ method, frequently asked questions. So improving and writing content is a great way to improve the rankings, and then just like sort of beef up content that maybe is okay, but maybe you could serve the user a little bit better. So in that case, you just come up with questions, super straightforward. You come up with questions that people interested in that product or whatever the topic is, they might ask. And again, Google gives us a lot of information around this. So if you just search for whatever term you're thinking of, usually you're going to see like a frequently asked questions box in the search results. So you just have to look there. You could even do your research right there. And I think in most cases you can click like see more questions, see more common questions. So those are a great place to start from. You could also go to forums if it's a topic where they actually have some forums out there. Usually you'll be able to go to like stickies within forums and just see like common questions with the answers right there. So that's a great way to, beef up content and potentially, be there for voice searches, be there for, the frequently asked questions feature box in the results. So that's number 1. Number 2 is what I call the RPM. That's a research paper method, where you literally, travel back to your school days and you go and do research on a topic. Spend an hour or 2 like finding some of the best resources online. Maybe you turn to Wikipedia, but go deeper, find better resources, find information from, a manufacturer's website if it's a product, or find books that are out there and references to those. Maybe the person has a blog, but the point is assemble several very good resources on the topic, and then write yourself an outline so that you end up with a very good coverage of the topic based on these very good resources. The idea here is you're putting together and curating the content from some of the best resources that are out there already, and then consolidating it into your own piece of content. Now, if you were to just try and rephrase one person's or one site's content, that's bad. It'd be like borderline plagiarism. But if you're taking the best 5 or 6 resources out there and actually creating something better than any of them individually by curating and consolidating, that's a good thing. You can reference them, of course, give credit where it's due. And then at that point, you have a great piece of content. You're providing resources and references for people to find more. So those are the 2 methods, FAQ and RPM. There's information and demos on both of those on my YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for your reply. And we actually have more questions coming in. So here's an interesting one. If a keyword golden ratio competitor analysis shows us a competitor with 100 backlinks or so, should I still go for it?
So you should. It depends. So that's a tough one to answer. So there's too many areas I'll point out. So number one, look at whether or not that piece of content actually answers the searcher's question or whatever they're looking for. So good example, we'll go back to the ballpoint pen. Best ballpoint pen for journaling in a bullet journal, right? So it's very specific. We're talking about journaling in a bullet journal. If the piece of content that is ranking has a lot of links, but they don't talk about journaling or a bullet journal, then I would go for it, because that piece of content, which is ranking, even though it has good backlinks, it's not actually serving the user as well as a more specific piece of content. So that's one aspect. The other one is just try it. Most of the time, I tell people, test it. If you think you should do something, you should probably do it and see what happens. Like, even if it doesn't work, you now have more data, and testing is the only way to find out. I've seen a lot of scenarios where the common knowledge, the expert wisdom out there may lead you in one direction, but if you try it, it actually tells you something else. So there's a lot of, not necessarily misinformation, but there's so many factors and scenarios out there that sometimes you just have to test it and see what happens. So maybe pick a couple of them, see if it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So in a lot of ways, the keyword golden ratio works really well when you're looking at like a volume of content. So how much are we talking? I would say, like, as an experiment, at a minimum, I would probably use like 20 terms and 20 pieces of content. What I've found is usually there's maybe like 5 or 10% that don't do well. Like they don't rank well at all. All right. Like it just didn't work out. There's probably about 75, 80% that rank well. They rank where we expect, and slowly over, months or several months, they'll move up a little bit higher and just kind of move up naturally without any backlinks. And then there's going to be like a very small percentage, maybe like 2 to 5% that rank way better than you expected and bring in a lot more traffic than you expected. So these are the ones where maybe it's 10 searches per month, but there's all these other long tail terms that are associated with it. And you end up with, 500 visitors per month instead of like the trickle that you maybe would have expected. So 20 at a minimum. And if you just want to dabble, and everyone has a different budget, you can do a handful and see how they work, but really 20 gives you enough data and enough tries to make it work.
Thank you very much for your answer. And indeed, backlinks are a very important factor. And to add to what you have said, perhaps it is a good proof of concept. Would you say that it might work like that? Like if there are backlinks for a specific long tail keyword, maybe we find something similar and use that as a proof of concept that there is interest and it generates backlinks, which are once again a very important ranking factor. Would that make sense?
Links are always better. Yeah. So this works well on its own. It works even better if you have backlinks to your site. And, it's another, obviously a huge factor on the Google side. And if your site has some links, that proves to Google that, especially good, authoritative, like solid links, that's a great thing overall. And implicit, or I guess, sort of in a related way, it helps your other stuff rank, your other content rank. And some of those may be KGR terms. If you can get links directly to the KGR terms, or KGR content, that's even better, of course.
Thank you. So actually we have more questions coming in. So we might go a little bit overboard with our planned time. Is that fine by you?
Let's do it.
Excellent, because there are some very interesting questions coming up. So one of them is, when you start a new site, should you publish all posts together, or should you like space them out, write them one by one, and have them evenly distributed?
I think you could just publish them as fast as you want. And I think there's no, if it's better for you to space it out, because maybe, let's say you're writing it yourself and you could only write like one article per week. That's cool. Publish it once per week or whatever you need to do. But in general, I would publish everything as fast as possible. So I think there was a day many years ago where it mattered if you published on a regular basis and perhaps it had some SEO component. But at this point in time, it has no bearing. Like you could publish, this is usually what I do. I publish a whole lot of stuff in a short time, and then I don't do anything for a long time, and I spend my time elsewhere, maybe doing some outreach and link building, stuff like that. But generally, I would just say publish it as quickly as possible so that it's out there and it can start ranking.
Sorry, my mic was off. Thank you very much for your answer. So other questions are coming in. We have some very active users. And by the way, be sure to ask questions. We still have quite some time. So the question is, what is the best way to make keywords for Amazon affiliate? Should we include, I guess the implication is like more general keywords, like for example, best dog beds, before we go for long tail ones? If that's if I understand correctly, the implication behind the original question.
I would, so there's not, a right way. Everyone may have an opinion. My opinion would be to do a blend. And my recommendation would be like about 80% as you're starting off. So let's say the first 6 months or so. All right. About 80% keyword golden ratio content. So you can get that traction. You can get some visitors on your site. You can start believing that this work, right? And then further, the other 20% is maybe some of the more competitive terms, the search volumes that are much higher, maybe it's 5,000 or 8,000 searches per month or whatever. Go ahead and get those out there too, but only about 20%, so that could start getting some traction and you can adjust and improve it. Maybe you'll get some long tail traffic going to it. So about 80-20.
Thank you very much for your answer. So more keywords, more like more questions, and once again very specific, very practice oriented ones. So if I start ranking high on organically with the specific keywords, like on first or third position or something, is it safe to stop advertising for that keyword?
And they said advertising, or do they mean like what do they mean there? What do you think?
specifically the question says advertising, but perhaps
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily mean paid advertising.
Sure. Okay. So we'll just assume that means like outreach and promoting that. So I would say don't stop completely. You could sort of, if it's in a steady state, that is okay. But one thing that I have been testing, and I haven't gotten like full results, but you can continue improving a piece of content. Maybe you add an FAQ section to something that's already ranking number one, and then you'll get more long tail traffic going to that page because it's already doing good. Google likes it. It's ranking number one. Adding content could be a good thing. Now, in general, I mean, should you stop promoting it? It's totally up to you. I mean, I think continuing to get links back to your site in general is a good thing, even if it's like, you're getting more links to your homepage or you're getting, more mentions out there. That's a good thing. Same with social. I don't spend much time on social, but if you can like get a few visitors a day or a few hundred visitors or whatever from a social channel to a specific piece of content, like that's going to be a good thing overall.
Fair enough. And I also wanted to ask you whether it would be a good practice so for the issue discussed in this question. So if we have a piece of content which ranks highly, perhaps would it be a good strategy to just update it from time to time, remarket it, so it will keep the high rankings, keep the visibility, and keep the backlinks, probably?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I don't emphasize that much, and I should probably do a better job on that myself. But yeah, revisiting a post, making sure, if it's product oriented, definitely, update. In fact, I was auditing someone's site, and it was sort of high tech gear. So new products are introduced every year, and their review used to rank really well. Used to rank like number one. However, some of the models of the products are discontinued. So I was like, you gotta go back and update this stuff. It's just old, and if anyone knows anything about the products, they'll see that everything's out of date just because one or two products are 100% discontinued now, and there's 2 or 3 replacements out there. Like it's that far behind. So updating it, very key, especially if it's a high tech or something that changes a lot.
Thank you very much. And indeed, I think with Google changing, it's impossible to make truly evergreen content, but you have prepared a big piece of content already. Why throw it away when you can update it, make it more relevant to what is relevant and interesting? And so again, less work and probably same or even more strategy.
Right.
Makes very like niche question. Is there any correlation between the keyword golden ratio and the number? Interesting. So it's phrased a little bit strangely. It's the question either about correlation between keyword golden ratio and the number of results, or the speed of results, because it talks about seconds. Would you say that there is for either option?
Can you actually, you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat the question? I'm not 100% sure I understand. A correlation between the KGR and what?
Yes. Is there a correlation between the KGR and the number of results or loading speed? I'm not sure. Perhaps the original poster can clarify this. So the number of results or the speed for Google.
So I don't think there's a correlation, but I haven't looked at it. So for the speed side of things, not to my knowledge. And then for like the number of results, like really we're only looking at the all in title results. So when you look at the sheer number of results, you may end up with like 16.5 million like pages on the internet where they mention any one of those phrases. So it's not relevant only the all-in title is relevant in this case. So again, after you find such a term, you do want to Google it and see what the results are, and the top 10 results on page 1. But further than that, you really don't need to look too much farther.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question indeed. Not something you generally think about, but very, very, very peculiar, I would say. And I just remembered that one of the solutions that we have for the content on your site already. So if you are posting like one of the questions asked and suggested, posting all your content all together in one big piece, you can use Content Analyzer to track the results of this content, including on social networks. So this is very useful because you can see how your past content is doing, and once again, perhaps you can just do a couple of updates and make it work once again, make it shine once again, and make it rank once again. Nice. So that's Content Analyzer. And we have one more question, I believe. So once again, this is getting into nitty-gritty of the keyword golden ratio, which is very interesting. So if I find a keyword and its keyword golden ratio is 0.005, and also as you told, there are some YouTube videos on the first page. Should I go for it?
Okay, so the answer is yeah, go for it. All right. Now, the caveats, and go for it because, as I mentioned before, like if you think maybe you should do something, you should probably do it. It's not going to cost you that much, right? A little bit of time or a little bit of money for the content potentially, but you'll gain knowledge, which is more valuable. You'll know more than, your peers. Now, the key thing, right? So if you see a few YouTube results, so let's say on the first page, you see 2 or 3 videos. That's cool. That's not a huge deal. The problem is when you see like, 8 YouTube videos on there, and then you go to the second page and there's still a whole bunch of YouTube videos. Generally, that's going to be a bad sign because YouTube is what is ranking like vast majority on that term. So if you see a couple, not a huge deal, go for it. Obviously, it's a very low, KGR. There's not many sites publishing content on it, so you should go for it. And just one level up. Again, this I call these permission type questions, where someone has found something and they're like, I'm not sure, should I do it? And affiliate marketing has this, obviously a strong component of entrepreneurship, and you have to make decisions with incomplete information and just uncertain results, and you have to take a risk and try it. So most of the time, any permission question, the answer is yes. Go for it. See what you could figure out. Like maybe whoever asked that question like has found something interesting that I haven't run across before. Like I only know what I know. So again, permission question, yeah. You have my permission, go for it. Check it out.
Yes, indeed. I think it's once again very important that it feeds into the whole experimentation and figuring out by yourself idea that you discussed in your presentation, which is once again I think is very important for the affiliate marketing. It's not a quick win process; it's a long-term investment of your time and funds. Of course, there are a couple of more questions which are more very practice-oriented and I would say are very interesting and relevant. So if we're talking about the ultra long tail keywords, can we really combine them, several of them, in one article, or is that like shooting yourself in the foot, essentially?
So generally, for a KGR term, you'll want to create 2 separate articles, or however many articles. Every term should have its own post. There are exceptions. So on one side of it, you have to look at the searcher's intent and like the actual content. So if if the content can serve multiple different people, then you can combine it. That's fine. And a lot of times you may find terms that are just super similar, and maybe it's just the same query. It's just some of the words are, they're swapped, but it's really the same type of person looking for the same type of answer. So if the piece of content can serve multiple users, then that's cool. Now, there are some others. And again, I'll go back to my ballpoint pen example. So let's say there's a few terms. It's like best ballpoint pen under $10, best ballpoint pen for college students, best ballpoint pen for journaling, right? So you may have the same product recommended in each one of those. However, in each one of the cases, it is a different searcher. The answer is different. The context is different. So a college student will have certain needs. You could write it for the college student. You can use the terms and phrases that a college student would use, versus like the bullet journaler or whatever example I gave. So the journaler would have like different ideas, different concerns. So in those cases, definitely separate. However, let's say it's a best ballpoint pen for a college student, and then let's say best ballpoint pen for taking notes in college. Maybe you combine those two, and maybe you can use the phrase, like a secondary phrase, in a subheading, for example. So if the content can serve the same type of user, you're good to go.
Thank you. So once again, it comes down a little bit down to experimentation and figuring out as you go. But so another question I see from another channel is, well, what if I publish the content and I fail? What key outtakes should I get from a failed piece of content or a failed project?
Sure. So, and I'll talk about it. I'll assume it's a keyword golden ratio piece of content. And actually, I just got this email earlier today from a viewer of mine and reader. And he was like, hey, I published like 10 pieces of content. None of them are ranking in the top 100. They're just pretty far back. And there's a few areas that actually there's just a ton of areas you can make a mistake in. So this is a difficult question to answer. But one of the number one issues and mistakes that I see people make is they are keyword stuffing. They're just using the term too much. So if you have the best ballpoint pen for journaling, you have that in your URL slug, and then you have that in your title, and then you've used it 5 or 6 times in your post, and it's 1,500 words, like you've keyword stuffed. I don't know the percentage, but I mean you're talking like a couple of percent, and you have this very long 5-word phrase or so, 5 or 6 words, and then you're not going to rank because you've keyword stuffed. And by the way, one of the very popular WordPress SEO plugins, Yoast SEO. It's a fine plugin. There's a lot of tools and stuff that you could use. However, it's for general bloggers. It's not for us. The Yoast SEO tool is not, as far as the keyword percentages, it's not for us. So again, there's other features of Yoast that are really excellent. But if you put in best ballpoint pen for bullet journaling and you use the term as many times as Yoast is recommending, you will be keyword stuffing. It's just not going to read well. It's an unnatural phrase to have very often. So I recommend using it in the title and then using it like one time in the copy. And then that's it. Everything else could be, synonyms, LSI terms, other things that are related. So that's the number one thing to look at. So if you've published some stuff, published some KGR posts, they're not ranking, double check your keyword density. Now further, a lot of times I actually see really poor grammar, misspelled words, and just low quality. So double check. And I mean, some of the worst people are folks that say, hey, I think it's really good. I know it's the best quality out there. And when I take a look, I see that it's clearly subpar. I mean, like, so have someone else read it. That's the whole point. It's very hard to edit your own work. So it's really valuable if you can just have an outside party read it and just give you real feedback and make sure it's good. A lot of times people are just blind, and they read it and they don't see the mistakes. They don't realize it's low quality. So those are sort of the main things that I would look at. And then other than that, I mean, you may have, a lot of times people ignore the important part of the formula, 250. And if you can, or if you go back and you look and you see you're targeting very high volume search terms, that's also going to be an issue.
That's interesting because it relates to another question, which maybe can really affect rankings. So early in the webinar, you talked about 4 types of keywords, to be exact. So among them are commercial and informational keywords. So would you say that those 2 groups, or indeed the 4 groups that we discussed, might have this 250, might have a different figure instead of 250? Is there a different keyword golden ratio for those other types of keywords?
The interesting question. I never thought of it that way. I'll just blanketly say like, no, I think you could just stick with the 250. It seems to be pretty solid for the informational and the product type. Even just the general, tire kicker type terms, I think it holds true. I think when you get into like applying this on an existing site, you apply the keyword golden ratio and say your site's 2 years old and it has a fairly high like domain authority or domain rating or whatever term that you're checking. Basically, it has a handful of backlinks and it's ranking for some stuff. You can maybe go up a little higher, either on the search volume, just a touch, or maybe a little higher on the ratio. So maybe instead of 0.25, you could go up to 0.75 or something like that. So if you have an older established site, you could be a little bit more liberal with the application. And back to, I mean, I'm applying a formula, right? I said 250 and I'm telling you to make it 0.25, but I also told you that all these search volumes, the local monthly search volumes, they're estimates from whatever tool that you use. So in one breath, I'm telling you to use a formula. In the other breath, I'm telling you that while these are kind of estimates, the formula takes care of it. It's a very aggressive application of the formula, 0.25 under 250. So it kind of takes care of inaccuracies or differences between different tools and stuff. Hence, if you have an established site, you can be a little bit more liberal. So if people stuck around for the hour and 17 minutes that we've been here, that's the tidbit. So you have a little flexibility if your site's been around there.
Fair enough. And also another thing I wanted to add to the previous question is that if you feel like you are underperforming for some reason, SEMRush has a lot of solutions, and indeed other tools may also be able to help you. But what we have, for example, is on-page SEO checker, which checks for a lot of stuff on your site, including issues with your content. So maybe you don't have proper tags set up, or your content is indeed too hard to read. It benchmarks you against your competitors and shows you what you can improve automatically, which is always nice to have. You don't have to think, you just have to see what we offer and implement those, and you will probably see much more traffic just from that, just from some technical aspects, without changing your content that much. And we have more questions coming in to you. Is a very important, interesting question. How important are buying keywords such as affordable, bargain, best price, buy, sale, cheap, etc.? Do I really need those mixed in my keyword, or are they not that important?
I don't play around much with those. So a lot of, well, in these Q&A sessions, usually I'll tell you if I don't know exactly. So this is one I don't know exactly. I haven't played around with it much. That said, I deem it as not too important. A lot of those like buying like aspect, like all those words. Most of the time when I've looked at those keywords and the results that come up, a lot of times they're e-commerce sites. So I generally stay away from them because of that. So I haven't played around or tested in any like really significant way.
Thank you very much. So basically speaking, it really depends, but I do see these work for some affiliates, but then again, depending on the affiliate program, you might see more success with the more informative content, which talks about the value of the product, not just basically converts. And those types of content are often very successful, at least from my experience in our affiliate program. So we actually, I don't believe we have any more. I think we can answer this last question, and then we will have to wrap it up.
Right.
So, what is the most important factors for ranking a website if we're talking about an Amazon affiliate site?
So this answer may not be super helpful, but the most important parts that, like, Google tells us there's like 3 big factors. So one is rank brain, which is kind of a black box situation, but a lot of it has to do around user intent. Ilya, feel free to fill in more in a second on rank brain if you know more. And then it's content and backlinks. Yeah, there's like 200 factors that go into ranking and all that stuff. But generally, if you have good good content, really good content, serves searcher intent, you got a handful of backlinks, you're probably going to be okay. Those are the 3 main things I would sort of look at.
I wouldn't say that I really have anything else to add on top of that, but basically speaking, what Google aims for is to make content, is to rank the content which is the best for the end user, for the actual people searching for something, to rank that content higher than something more optimized. So you see that advice passed around quite a lot, is just write the content which is good for the end user. And I do feel like this is relevant to a lot of very successful affiliates. But once again, by all means, study what a lot of experts on affiliate marketing have to say about the specific techniques. Like, for example, here we have the keyword research, which go into ranking higher without damaging the value of the real content that you're producing. Would you say that's fair to say?
Yep, exactly.
Right. Wow. One last question. All
right.
Are you okay? Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Excellent. Because I feel like this is a very interesting one. Sometimes keywords, even if they are keyword golden ratio compliant, do not sound as good to human ears, which is once again what we are talking about right now, about the value for the end user. In those cases, should we include the exact phrase in the page title, or should we work around that to make it more friendly towards the real people searchers?
Make it more friendly. So the important thing is to have all the words in the title, so you can reorder them and add another word to make the grammar correct. Further, if you're getting into copywriting and stuff, you can use copywriting ideas. You don't want to use a clickbait title. It's just not a good idea to do that. But you can make it more interesting. The top five best ballpoint pens for bullet journaling, and say like the best one's the cheapest, right? Like that. Obviously, that's a long title. You need to tighten that up. But the point being, you can use curiosity and copywriting skills to also make it more clickable. So use the phrase that you need to use, make it readable. You could even embellish it and make it more enticing to click on. If you have a higher click-through rate on the search results, you're probably going to move up in the rankings, right? Of course, you have to have the content to back it up. So yeah, proper grammar, make it natural for a reader.
Thank you very much. And I think it's also fair to say that backlinks that are, as we discussed previously, a very important ranking factors are easier to earn, just simply easier to earn on the human level when your site and your content is looking proper and optimized for humans and the end user rather than for Google's machines. I think that's fair to say. Well, yes. So actually, I don't think we have time for any more questions right now. There have been a lot of questions and they were very interesting ones. So thank you very much, everybody, for participating, for asking your questions. And do keep in mind that this webinar will be available on SEMRush YouTube page after we're over, so you can rewatch it and check out some of the points you might have missed. And of course, you're welcome to share that with your audience. Just one quick announcement before we're over is that this will be the last webinar in our affiliate marketing webinar series for 2018, but we're not done quite yet. We have the next webinar coming up in January on the 22nd with Robbie Richards. We will be talking about actionable steps to grow your affiliate income streams. So be sure to check out SEMrush social channels, BRush social channels if you're subscribed to that, and monitor our webpage. But before that, thank you everybody for coming, and Doug, thank you very much for this presentation. It was very informative and very interesting for me. It was a joyride, so thank you once again.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it as well. I know there's more questions out there and stuff. I do a live Q&A on Fridays on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in just hearing me ramble on, answer these kind of questions, I usually stay on for even longer. And it's Ilya's later time of the day, and he's like, "Hey, I got to go home, guys. I got to get out of here." So I totally understand. But Fridays, you could tune in for my own Q&A. Would be happy to answer more questions there.
Hey, where can the viewers find your Q&A? Where exactly?
So just go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. If you look around a little bit, you should see on the community tab, if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications and all that stuff. And I didn't mention it much, but if you go to Niche Site Project, I basically give out all my templates and stuff. You'd have to sign up for the email list, but I give all the templates that I use, all the stuff for team building, hiring on Upwork or whatever. So that's sort of my home base over there on Niche Site Project. Click the green button, name an email, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And just in case, I will add the link to your YouTube channel along with the link to your site in the description of this video, so you can check it out shortly after we are over.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you very much once again for this wonderful presentation, and thank you very much for joining us today and asking all these interesting questions. So before I see you once again next year, happy holidays. I hope you have a good time, and I will see you all on the January 22nd. And before that, have a good day and goodbye.